Let's talk about Tim Walz. So Tim Walz, who was the governor of Minnesota and currently still is, and the vice presidential candidate in 2024 under Kamala, is trending today for comments that he's made about Tesla, masculinity, and his critics. First, I want you to check out this comment that he made at a town hall event that he did in Wisconsin.
Saying on my phone, I don't know, some of you know this on the iPhone, they've got that little stock app. I added Tesla to it to give me a little boost during the day. 225 and dropping. So, and if you own one, we're not blaming you. You can take dental floss and pull the Tesla thing off, and take out, just telling you.
Anyway, so this guy is a governor of Minnesota, so he's not some random Joe Schmo, even though he lost the election. And first, I want to talk about why he brought up Tesla at all at this event. Well, the town hall event is to support a liberal candidate for Wisconsin Supreme Court against a conservative who is being funded by a political action community that is receiving funding from Elon Musk. Now, I've commented in other videos about what's going on with people literally torching Teslas, putting swastikas on Teslas, and blowing up charging stations. And there's also been reports of names and addresses of Tesla owners being released to the public, with the publisher refusing to take down that private information unless the owner sells their vehicle. Think about how crazy that is. Private citizens are literally vandalizing the private property of other private citizens, working and middle-class people, and releasing their information to the public with their names and their addresses where their kids live over politics. Like, that's where we are in the country right now. And some of this is just straight up terrorism. So it's against that backdrop that as a former Democrat, I say this: it really is deeply disappointing to see Democratic leaders continue to stand for nothing but negativity. Terrorism is defined as the systematic use of terror, especially as a means of coercion. These people are terrorists and they should be treated accordingly. If you are blowing up Tesla charging stations, you are a terrorist. If you are setting Teslas on fire, you are a terrorist. If you are doxing people and exposing them to harm, you are a terrorist. This is domestic terrorism. This is not an act of protest. It's instilling fear and terror in Americans, like fellow citizens. Over what? Like, people are reacting to a fear of the future, like a fear that this is going to turn into the Fourth Reich, some sort of fascist state. I haven't seen the military being used to round up American citizens, and yet people are harming other American citizens because of a fear. And rather than seeing this, and as a leader, as a governor of a state of liberals and conservatives, Democrats and Republicans, rather than saying, hey, look, this is just too far, we need to stop doing this. And he could say he doesn't like Trump. He can say he doesn't like MAGA. He can say he doesn't like the direction that the Republicans are bringing the country, and they need to resist the Republicans through every legal means possible. Rather than rallying his base to an alternative vision of the future, Tim Walz and other Democratic leaders are feeding into the negativity. Now, make no mistake, negativity is a part of politics. And I've been critical of Trump's negativity in past videos too. But at least he couples that with a positive vision. That's literally in the name of the movement. Make America great again. That's a positive vision. It's a vision of a safe, wealthy, powerful, ambitious America. But right now, the Democratic leaders don't appear to have any real position. And instead of articulating a vision, Tim Walz is celebrating the decline of one of America's great companies, who employs 70,000 people in the United States, whose stock has changed the lives of millions of middle-class Americans, whose vehicles are driven by millions of Americans, who single-handedly accomplished a major part of the climate change agenda that Democrats have been pushing for by popularizing electric vehicles. So now what we have is working class people damaging the property of other working and middle class citizens. And instead of saying, hey, that's too far, no matter what your concerns are about what Trump is doing or what Elon's doing, Rather than saying, hey, we need to stop this because this is actually hurting America, he's celebrating the drop of a stock price. But the deeper insight is this: Tim Walz and other Democratic leaders don't seem to understand half the country. And I want you to check out this comment from him in a conversation that he had with Gavin Newsom on Gavin Newsom's new podcast.
It just baffled me how much time they spent trying to attack me that I wasn't like masculine enough in their vision. Like, I would have never believed this. I saw Fox News did like a couple days because I used a straw. And I'm like, hell, man, how else do you drink a milkshake type of thing? But they focused on it obsessively, which I think, again, is their obsession, their weirdness. We buy their frame on these issues of sexuality, but their whole thing is that they spent all their time, these guys on Fox News, that Walz is gay, he's not masculine, he doesn't coach football the way he should or doesn't. What do you think about this? I mean,
it's
this misogyny in here that's happening.
Yeah, well, but this notion of masculinity is deeply part of it. That's one of the. I mean, I think it goes. And you can look at the reasons why we've had this sort of dialectic over the Me Too movement. We've had this dialectic even prior to the Me Too movement. This
How
notion
do you fight it?
This
I
notion
think
of
I could kick most of their ass. I do think that if they want to do it. I know I can outrun them, but I don't know if we're going to fall into that place where we want to. Okay, we challenge you to a WWE fight here type of thing.
Tim, the reason people don't find you masculine has little to do with hunting or trucks. It's because you're a 60-year-old man complaining about people not finding you masculine while also claiming you could kick the asses of voters. You don't understand men or masculinity. Men don't want to see their borders open for foreign men to enter at will. Men don't want to see kids sex trafficked over an open border. Men don't want to die in pointless wars. Men don't want to see their money sent to other countries for other men to die in foreign wars. Men don't want to see men in women's sports. Men don't want to see their kids being told that man and woman are just social constructs in schools that we pay taxpayer money for. And men are tired of being called misogynists for saying no to this stuff. And if Democrats keep on demonizing us, we will keep rejecting them. So that's what's going on with men and masculinity. And what I would like to see from the Democratic Party is healthy opposition, because this is toxic. Torching Teslas is toxic. Releasing the identities and addresses of private individuals, that's toxic. This is terrorism. And I want to see leaders on both sides calling it out. Of course, Republicans are pointing it out because it's easy for them. But for Democratic leaders, I would actually gain a lot of respect for you guys if you did it when it's hard. If you did it even when you know that people in your party might not like the fact that you're holding the people who voted for you to account. Because this is not a game, okay? This is real life. And if we have the complete collapse of law and order and fellow citizens are damaging each other's private properties and literally trying to instill terror in each other, then we've completely lost the plot. And this whole democracy thing is going to be a failure. So look, I think there's legitimate grievances to have with the way that Elon and Trump are going about trying to do what they think is right. And I'm even okay with Democratic, senators and congressmen saying we're just going to oppose what they do no matter what. I don't think it's thoughtful. But both sides do it. That's not something new to politics. That's been happening since the nation was founded. But if we can't get to the point where we say, outright violence in the streets, and this is not like a riot or a protest that got out of hand, by the way. This is people deliberately going out to key vehicles, to paint swastikas, to release identities of people, right? This is premeditated, cold-blooded terrorism. If we can't call that out, what are we even doing here? Seriously, there's a huge portion of the country who's not committed to a strong conservative or strong liberal position. We just want to see common sense policy. We want to see people focusing on what's important. We want to see people focusing on the majority issues while protecting the minority, but not giving in to fringe ideologues and radicals. And there's an opportunity to win us back. But what you're doing right now is disgusting. It's genuinely disgusting. It's disgusting. It's childish. And it's actually shocking. And I don't think it always was the case, because I understood that people are in pain and they're very frustrated with the state of healthcare. They're very frustrated that the cost of healthcare is too high and in an It's like you either have to choose between being bankrupt for life or saving your life. Like, that's gross, and we need to fix that as a country. Absolutely. But when we get to the point where we start demonizing and dehumanizing other people to the point where we're celebrating violence and people are deifying and valorizing Luigi Mangione as some sort of folk hero when he walked up to a man who has a wife and kids and shot him in the streets, something is dysfunctional. Something is deeply wrong. We need to have that as a reality check and wake up and see, look, there are problems. This is not the way that we fix them. Ever. Because if you enact violence, you will beget violence. If you sow violence, you will reap violence. That's why we have civil society. Because the ugly truth is, the bottom line of nature is violence. In a state of nature, that's how things are resolved. You look at animals, the way that they live, they kill each other. It's violence. There's no morality there. And that's largely how it used to be before we invented this great thing called civil society. But if we lose civil society, how do we resolve our disagreements? Violence. So people celebrate it when the violence is against someone that they don't register as human. And by the way, this happens to people at all levels, right? Like, it's easy for people to recognize the evil in being violent toward a oppressed minority or a religious minority or some sort of ethnic group. Like, everyone gets that. But even being violent towards someone who's powerful, like the United Healthcare CEO, or Elon Musk is getting death threats, or someone tried to kill Trump. It's all dehumanization because they're all humans. And it always comes back. The pendulum always swings back in the other direction. So yeah, I'm just really disappointed that our leaders don't act like leaders. But look, ultimately, politicians are a reflection of the culture that's created by the people. Tim Walz's will come and go. Politicians are produced by cultures. And it's important for us as individuals to treat each other with kindness and decency and recognize, hey, if we can't be civil, then violence is the next step. And we don't want things to get violent. So it's incumbent on us to not be so violent in our speech, not be so violent in how we talk about people online and how we comment. Because, yeah, we are all creating the culture with every thought that we allow to permeate our brains, with every word that we allow to leave our lips, with every statement that we make toward our fellow human. And we got to take responsibility for that because we are the culture. And I think people are forgetting that. People are emphasizing freedom, but there's not a lot of conversation about responsibility. And yeah, freedom without responsibility is chaos. Like, everyone's always talking about my rights, my freedoms, but you also got to take responsibility for that. And it's like, when you see people behaving the way that they are, it's like, yeah, like, eventually Trump is going to have to lay down the law. Right? People talk about the military being used against American citizens. Well, if American citizens are blowing up Teslas and harassing each other, then eventually you do need to get to a point where the National Guard needs to get involved. And no one wants that to happen. So let's start by individual citizens by recognizing we need to regulate ourselves, regulate our emotions, figure out civil ways to resolve disagreements. Look, the court system is getting in Elon and Trump's way every step of the way. I know it's annoying to some people who are pro-Trump, but I think it's also healthy. And anti-Trump people should look at that and say, look, the judiciary system is working as intended. So why are we doing this? We don't need any of this stuff, guys. These are extreme measures that are completely disproportionate to whatever perceived harm is being done. Like, what exactly are the rights that people think they're losing right now that justify this level of violence? What exactly is happening that justifies acting this way toward your fellow citizen? Craziness, nonsense. So yeah, we need to all individually, I'm talking to everyone who's watching this stream right now, everyone in the chat, we all create the culture. So we all have a responsibility for modeling the kind of behavior we want to see in the world, even if lunatics are not doing the same thing. Had to get that off my chest. Hope you like that.